Assassin's Creed is one of those few iconic series that every gamer, both old and new, is probably familiar with. With a catalog of hits that has as many genre-defining ups as it has its series-ruining downs. Assassin's Creed has been leading more towards the down as of late, with games that are just not doing it for the longtime fans. And this is where this new title, Assassin's Creed Mirage, comes into play. Mirage is the first game in a long time that was promised to be a true return to form. No more overbearing RPG elements, no more unnecessary free roam, just pure stealth, parkour, and Assassin's Creed fundamentals. But after years of letting us down, was Ubisoft capable of giving us a game that the fans really wanted? And did Mirage live up to those promises? Surprised to say, Assassin's Creed is back! Though with some caveats. I've played every Assassin's Creed game, good and bad. Yes, even those. And that one too. And even that one. And this is the first time since Unity I'd argue that this game actually feels like an Assassin's Creed game. Which sounds crazy, but let me explain. I don't know about you, but when I think about Assassin's Creed as a series, there are a couple of core fundamentals that come to mind. Stealth, parkour, and the real-world history. And this game nails all that. Starting with the first one, Assassin's Creed Mirage is the first game in a long time that feels like a true stealth-based game. Like, stealth has always been a thing in the series, even in the toned-down RPG trilogy. But this is the first time in a while that it feels front and center and not being muddled down with a focus on combat, leveling, and action game style weapon mechanics. Best example I could think of is how even though you can engage in combat with enemies, you kinda wanna avoid it. It never feels worth it and you'll just end up having to do so much extra shit compared to just sneaking around. Enemies are tough in this game and can easily surround you if you draw too much attention to yourself. Armored enemies especially being a huge pain until you unlock this one game-changing ability later on. But unlike the RPG games or even older titles, where crowds of enemies can be killed just by spamming counterattacks, multiple enemies will just decide to randomly attack you at the same time, making it hard to cheese that one-hit insta-kill. I don't know if this is new or if this is something that existed in the older games, but this is definitely different. But all of this combat is easily avoidable if you just don't get seen and slowly work your way to the next objective, promoting stealth first and foremost in this game. Which is awesome considering I'm so used to just getting seen in the older games and going, oh well, time to clear this area out and move on. It's refreshing to think that I'm actually kinda scared of getting caught. Luckily, the tools this game gives you make it easier and really engaging to sneak around. Between booby traps, sleep darts, and even a teleporting super to take down multiple enemies at the same time. This is both visually and mechanically one of the sickest things in an Assassin's Creed game. I need more of this. And because leveling your character is no longer the main focus of the gameplay, you gain skills and abilities at a steady pace without having to really grind. Pretty much, after every mission you get something. You don't have to grind out levels just to get perks or upgrade weapons or do all this extra stuff to unlock skills. Which is awesome, because I ended up beelining to this one perk that made it so every time I crouched, I could see all the enemies around me. And I got that so early in the game, man. Oh, it felt so good going through the game with this. The parkour also feels really great, reminiscent of games that nailed it, like the Ezio trilogy and Unity. In fact, I say they nailed it so well that it's just as frustrating as ever when you constantly get stuck on the Yeah man, Assassin's Creed movement is back. And though it's not perfect, it's definitely closer to how it was in its golden days, compared to its field-running newer days. I will say though, I found it really weird that the default controls made clicking the left stick the run button. For those really familiar with Assassin's Creed, left stick as a run is definitely an interesting choice, but thankfully you could change that, so I did that immediately. As for the game's history and historical setting, I like it. It's not as interesting or captivating as the Italian Renaissance, the French Revolution, or the American Civil War, but it's different enough from most of the previous games that it was cool to explore a setting I'm not all too familiar with. and the historical relevance is still there since it takes place in 9th century Baghdad during its golden age, a point in time where there was constant instability caused by the Caliphate. Overall, these three core concepts of Assassin's Creed are here, and help to make Mirage the most well-rounded entry the series has had in years. This was the first time since Origins that I was hooked enough to 100% the game entirely, and the first time since Unity that I felt like I had a place within the upper echelon of Creed games. And if not, at least in a really good spot towards the middle tiers. But just like how assassins work in the dark to serve the light, even though this game shines bright and is a huge step in the right direction, it manages to stumble in its own shadows. While the setting is cool, the story is weak, man. Assassin's Creed hasn't had a character as captivating and interesting since Edward Kenway, and though Bossum is better than most, he's not even close to being as memorable. Bossum is an interesting character, and has had moments of weakness and flaws which I like. The part about him I like the most. But a good portion of the game he's kinda just this yes man that loses his own voice and identity. He's strongest in the start and ending of the game, and it's such a shame because he is likable and can be relatable. I get why he's mad, I understand his pain. I think the core as to why I dislike the story is because Mirage fails to really nail that brotherhood sense that the best games have. And I don't mean literally like it needs to have a story like Brotherhood, but shy of two very specific characters, no one really matters, friend or foe. This problem is not specific to this game, as it's been a growing issue within the last couple titles, but think about all the best Assassin's Creed moments and stories and you'll see where the issues are. In Brotherhood, you had someone to hate from the very beginning of the game. In 3, you played as the main villain up to a certain point in time. Hell man, even Unity did a better job. It danced around the idea of the main love interest being a Templar, leading to a Romeo and Juliet scenario that had me wanting to see where the story was gonna go next. That's memorable. That's different. These games had allies the main character had to grow with, and enemies that were a constant threat lingering over the player from the very beginning. Mirage doesn't have that, sadly. All the villains are one-off, kill them in the moment, nothing characters, and the one that had the potential to lead into something really meant nothing. And shy of 2 of the allies, the other ones don't really do much to push the story forward. And they're definitely not as memorable as past allies and earlier entries. Unsurprisingly, some of the best moments in this game involve the 2 characters that Bossum actually has a close relationship to. Go figure, the 2 characters I cared about the most were the only 2 that Bossum had some sort of relationship with. I think Assassin's Creed has struggled with this for a while, of not really having any great story moments that will leave a lasting impression once you beat the game because you never have the opportunity to care for anyone, whether hate or love. The one moment in this game that I thought was really intense and should have been a wow moment was nullified immediately because it's like, oh my god! Who are these people again? Who? What? And don't get me wrong, I don't think the story is terrible, it's just a bit lackluster compared to what the series is capable of doing. It does have its awesome moments, cool themes, and though I wasn't 100% down for the Inception level ending, I did enjoy the final boss, and I don't want to take away from any of that. I'd argue that the strongest point in this game is its gameplay, and while 90% of it is awesome, it has really weird design choices here and there. For example, like the games of old, you can call upon mercenaries and other groups to aid you for various things throughout the game, such as distracting guards, fighting enemies for you, or even showing you secret passages to aid you on your main missions. This is not new to the series, and it's cool to have this back. But where it gets weird is now you have to use some weird token system to pay them off for assistance instead of just paying them with the in-game money. Which I guess that works since most people were broke in this time period. So historically it makes sense. It's, it's not like there's a lot of money to go around. But there were a couple of times my progress was halted just because I didn't have the correct tokens at the right time, having me do side quests in the middle of a main mission just so I can move forward. It's a weird element I wasn't too fond of personally, and it totally killed the momentum of the game at times, but it didn't happen often enough where I say ruined the experience, just more or less weakened it a bit. And because this is an Assassin's Creed game, you know you're gonna run into some bugs and glitches. I mean, come on, it is Ubisoft, am I right? Thankfully, I'd argue this is the tamest this series has been in a while. I personally never stumbled upon any game-ruining glitches or bugs that made the game unplayable, but like joked before, have had moments where the movement just did not want to work. How I've missed you, Assassin's Creed. But putting those downsides to the side, Mirage is without a doubt a huge step forward in the right direction. Ubisoft kept true to their word. Assassin's Creed is back, and it's the strongest it's been in years. The foundation is strong, and no more stupid leveling system to hold you back from enjoying this game how you want to. I enjoyed this game and loved it. It feels like this was one all over again, where that core foundation is building and the series is getting its footing. So if they keep this foundation and just improve upon it, then woohoo! Ooh, Ubisoft, don't blow it. If you're an old fan and have been looking for a return to form before hopping back into an Assassin's Creed game, I'd say that this is it, and your prayers have been answered. As long as you keep your expectations realistic, you should have no problem. Mirage is a great game, and I am looking forward to seeing where this series goes from here, as it was very reminiscent of the old games that made this series as popular as it is today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and take care.